Come on, goats. Hey everybody, Stacy here. Welcome back to my channel. If you've ever considered getting a goat, or if you already have goats, something you absolutely need to know is what kind of plants are toxic. So today I'm going to show you a couple plants that are common to my area and tell you a little bit about their toxicity. Oh my gosh, it's so humid out today. It's like swimming in the air. Just a few feet away from the goat barn, you look over here and there's an abundance of horse nettle. Horse nettle is in the nightshade family. You could identify it by these purpley white flowers, and it also has thorns growing up the stems and stalk. And at some point it grows these berries that look like miniature round watermelons. Horse nettle is toxic all the time, whether it's fresh green or dry. It can get mixed in with hay very easy, so that's a bad thing. Horse nettle can cause neurological issues and even result in death. Fortunately, this is one of the plants they choose not to bother with unless there's nothing else to eat. It's been raining outside and it's super humid, so we're hanging out in the barn for a moment. I want to clear up some assumptions that people have about goats. Goats don't eat everything that they see. Well, except right now, Chloe's trying to eat the tripod. Ah! Let me take that back. Goats will try and eat everything they see. Just not all things are good for them. People tell me all the time that they want to get goats so they can keep their lawn down because they don't like to weed whack on the side of a mountain. They really don't do a very good job at keeping grass down. People think that goats eat everything like tin cans and garbage because they see it on a cartoon. Goats are actually herbivores. You've got two types of herbivores. You've got browsers and there's grazers. Grazers are like cows and sheep. They'll eat grass type vegetation and eat it close down to the root. Browsers usually eat acorns, leaves, any kind of young branches and twigs off of trees that are about at their head height. Goats fit in between those two categories. They call them intermediate eaters. They browse and they also graze. You'll see them out in the fields eating low-lying vegetation such as grass and hay, but every once in a while you'll see them knocking down a sapling or eating leaves or acorns off of a tree. Oh yeah, and they like to eat shirts. What would you call that, a shirtivore? That sounds like it could be a bad word. Now, since goats fit both categories, it gives you twice as many plants that you gotta look out for. Another thing to keep in mind is that different plants grow at different seasons, so you're always on the lookout for something. To add to that, different parts of different plants are more toxic than the others. For example, cherry trees are toxic, but wilted cherry leaves could be deadly. Only 1.5 pounds can put down an adult horse. Now what I'm going to show you is just a portion of some of the plants that are toxic in my area. This is by no means an extensive list, so please do your own research. My rule of thumb is if I don't know what the plant is, I won't let my animals eat it. Also, it's a good idea to keep activated charcoal on hand. I've got a bottle of activated charcoal in my car, in my van, and also in a medical kit just in case my goats do consume anything that's toxic. I'll put a link in the description below where you could buy some activated charcoal if you don't already have any. Again, not too far away from the barn, we've got this plant that's overhanging the fence. This is a tree. This is a box elder. The leaves sort of look like poison ivy leaves. Let me break one off here. They'll grow in 3s and 5s on a stem. They do resemble poison ivy. They even have the little thumbs like poison ivy has. But this is related to the maple tree, and the seeds are the most toxic part. Just about 3 days ago, I read this post that somebody had put in one of the goat forums where one of these box elder trees had fallen over into the neighbor's yard and the goats actually got it and got sick. Fortunately, they were made healthy and they're doing well. We're literally just moving along the pasture fence line and we're running across all kinds of plants that are toxic. This here is pokeweed. This plant is pretty easy to identify because it's got a purplish stalk and a unique cluster of berries. On the back side of the barn here, along this hill, we've got a lot of this stuff growing. This has got a very potent smell. It's called dog fennel. Dog fennel is mildly toxic to goats. It affects their liver. I was walking back here in the horse arena the other day and happened to notice this particular plant. And it's probably the most toxic plant that I've seen growing around here. I'd like to point it out to you guys so you know what to look for. This is called Perilla Mint. This is super deadly to horses, goats, and all livestock. This will kill them in a matter of minutes. It'll stop their breathing. You can see the stem is kind of squarish. The leaves are serrated. It grows out of the center, kind of like a rosette. And when you pluck it and you touch it, it definitely has a mint smell to it. So that's another very good indicator. Let me just reiterate, if you don't know what a plant is, please don't let your animals eat it. I've got a story where when I was down in Florida, one of the neighbors had cut some avocado trees and he tossed all the trimmings over into my goat yard. Fortunately, I got home just minutes after he tossed it over and I saw my goats eating on it. I went over and asked him what it was that he threw over and he told me that it was avocado. Avocado will kill a goat. You'll see buttercups pop up in the springtime in fields and pastures. Animals tend to leave this alone because if they eat it, it'll burn their mouth, but if they happen to ingest it, it'll cause blisters and hemorrhaging in their intestines. I'm trying to fight the rain, but I really want to get this video shot for you guys because I think this is very important to know. So I'm standing next to this giant lantana plant right here. Lantana is also toxic, just about to everything. It is a good butterfly bush, so you usually see a lot of butterflies flying around, but not in the rain. Lantana is one of those plants where the toxicity affects the organs like the liver and the kidneys, and there's not really any known cure for it, so it's definitely one that you don't want your animals to eat. I see a lot of this growing in Florida along the side of the road, along with oleander. Oleander is also deadly. You don't want to keep your animals away from that. Boxwoods are another type of shrub or tree that are toxic to goats. This is a boxwood here. Boxwoods are one of those types of plants that people plant for hedges and again for ornamental purposes. Leyland cypress and Japanese yew are two other plants people commonly put in their yards, but they're super toxic to goats. Just a handful of the Japanese yew could stop their heart. I forgot about these. These are another type of ornamental plant a lot of people place for looks, but they're extremely toxic to goats and livestock. These are azaleas, and this kind right here, they're deciduous. They'll lose their leaves in the wintertime. Azaleas, boxwoods, rhododendrons are all extremely toxic to goats. It's a slow, painful death where their organs will shut down, but it is treatable if you catch it in time. That's one reason it's a real good idea to keep activated charcoal on hand. I'm out of the yard and back into the woods. I just want to come back here to identify maybe a couple more plants that are toxic. I'm doing this video not to scare you guys or talk you out of getting goats. I just want to make you aware that goats can't eat everything like all the cartoons insinuate. I find that there's a lot less toxic plants in a wooded area like this than there is in somebody's yard where they planted a bunch of ornamental plants, because like I mentioned, a lot of ornamental plants are toxic to animals. So you want to do your research before you decide on prettying up your yard. Ooh, I almost ate it. This is a very common plant here in North Georgia. This is mountain laurel, and it is just as toxic as the boxwood and azaleas. You don't want them eating any of this because it could cause organ failure. Mountain laurel usually grows in a very shaded area like we are back here. It is a, oh hey look, this is holly. It's easily identified because it's got the spiky leaves. They're a tough leaf, they're not like a soft leaf, they're an evergreen. Holly is also toxic. Mostly the berries, if you happen to find a holly tree with berries on it. I see a lot of ferns back here as well. There's certain kinds of ferns that are toxic to goats. The Bracken Fern is one of the toxic varieties. And even if a cow eats Bracken Fern, the milk could even be toxic to humans. All right, it's starting to rain pretty bad, so I want to show you one more. This right here is a cherry variety that I was talking about. I don't know if it's a pin cherry or choke cherry or black cherry. All kind of the same when it comes to toxicity. When these leaves wilt, they create a cyanide, which is extremely toxic to your animals. So please don't let them eat any cherry leaves or even stone fruit. Stone fruits like plums and peaches. Cherry. Look at the bark. This is what the bark looks like on a young cherry. All right, I'm getting soaked out here, so we gotta head home. I hope this video helps you guys and gives you some good information. Please share with your goat friends, and we'll see you next time.